What up, folks? What's going on? It's the pastor. Wow, what a day, what a day, what a day it's been thus far. My deepest apologies for being late in starting this live that I had really wanted to begin at 12:30. There's been a lot of different circumstances and situations that have occurred that have delayed my first off, with the family members coming together today in order to address the press and to answer questions about where they're at in the aftermath of this craziness that came out at trial. The delays that came in as far as being scheduled, things that popped up as far as being scheduled, and ultimately what we wanted to do together on Monday, then Tuesday, finally because of another commitment that they had today with the attorney, we decided that I would just come down today and share some things that I'd like to share. And I think it's even better that it's just me by myself and not the family members. I know that it has to be hard. It has to be hard for this family to continue to have to go through the mess that they've been put through since May 8th, 2022. It has got to be hard. So would y'all please share this out? I don't have no music or nothing like that. Please share it out and invite some more people to come in. I know it's the middle of the day. I know it's a Wednesday, but I also know that there are some people available. Having sat through the trial week before last with this family, with the verdict coming in last Monday of guilty, and then the insane sentencing that was given, no accountability sentence that was given. That's actually been the way it's been from day one in this whole case, no accountability. The disrespect and the abuse that this family has been put through for the last 3 years, I think that what I have to say today, whereas if they were with me today, we'd be talking more about, answering questions and talking more about how they are feeling, in the aftermath of this insane verdict that came down. Well, I think it's better, though, for me to be alone. That way I can just candidly talk about some things that I've witnessed over the last 3 years as far as the blatant disrespect for this family who lost 3 loved ones because of the negligence, because of the inconsiderateness of a Charleston County Sheriff's deputy who was on duty at the time. And not only that she being the cause of what's happened over the last 3 years and will continue in this family's life until they're all joined with their other 3 loved ones. But the accumulated and assorted disrespect, slaps in the face that this family has been put through since May 8th, 2022. It's insane. It's totally ridiculous when on May 8th, 2022, that just happened to be Mother's Day, and the day after the youngest person in the vehicle, Miranda, had graduated from Claflin College with her degree in criminal justice, with a job waiting for her. I believe it was either at Hilton Head or Beaufort area, waiting for her. A promising future ahead. Graduated on Saturday. Sunday was Mother's Day. This family of 3, this very close family. Somebody said that when you see one, you saw all 3. They were not like the family that's portrayed in the media as far as the black family and everything. This was a close-knit family. And this mother and her 2 daughters, this mother Stephanie and her 2 daughters, Shanice and Miranda, that family had celebrated Miranda's graduation the day before, from college graduation the day before. And that Sunday, all day had celebrated Mother's Day, enjoying each other's company. And driving back home that evening, that night, right around 10:30, 10:55 to be exactly, driving down Highway 17 at the intersection of 17, which is a 4-lane highway with a large median in the middle, so that makes it like literally 5 lanes counting the median. At the intersection of Highway 17 and this road called New Road, N-E-W Road, which is a 2-lane highway with no lights and everything. It runs for a few miles, but it's very dark. It's woods on both sides, ditches on both sides, 2 lanes. As they drove south on Highway 17, heading home, and they got to the intersection of New Road, without them seeing or noticing or anything, their car was rammed on the driver's side, front end, literally killing all 3 of them instantly. Shanice, the older of the 2 daughters, Shanice was 28 at the time. She was the driver. It came out in trial that she was seat belted, she was buckled in. Her little sister, Miranda, who had graduated the day before from Claflin College, was 22 years old. She was in her seatbelt. Stephanie, the mother, was in the back seat. Y'all please share this out so others will be able to hear the story of 3 years of abuse that's continuing to be abused as this family as it moves forward. The mother, Stephanie, was in the back seat. And this vehicle, driven by Charleston County Sheriff's Deputy, on-duty Charleston County Sheriff's Deputy, Emily Pelletier, literally came through a stop sign, because there is a stop sign coming up New Road when you get to this major intersection of Highway 17. There's a stop sign right there. And yes, it was 5 minutes to 11 o'clock p.m., 10:55 p.m. And she blew straight through that stop sign. In court, it was brought out that when she went, as a matter of fact, even before court, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, that when she went through the stop sign, she blew through that stop sign doing 73 miles an hour. At 73 miles an hour, when she flew through that stop sign in the dark, was brought out at trial, and even before, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, that she had no dome lights, no police lights or sirens on when she did it. When she came across that road, New Road, this pitch black road now, at times, it came out at trial that she was clocked at times at doing over 80 miles an hour, over 83 miles an hour down this 2-lane highway in the dark. And the stop sign is clearly illuminated, especially at night. It has that I guess that reflector situation where once light hits it, it lights up. Well, for quite a few hundred yards before getting to that stop sign, because of headlights, that stop sign is very visible. The Highway Patrol, in their investigation, they used their handheld flashlight and shined it on the stop sign, and it was easily visible. She blew through that stop sign at a rate of 73 miles an hour, crossed the 2 northbound lanes of Highway 17, the median, and a single lane of the southbound lane, and slammed directly into the driver's side of the vehicle driven by Shanice Dantzler Williams, with her sister Miranda in the passenger seat and her mother Stephanie in the back seat. Hit them. From the time it was brought out in trial in court, from the time that she crossed from where the stop sign at to impact was 1 second. 1 second before she hit them. And these trash attorneys in the courtroom repeatedly tried to make it Shanice as the driver's fault that this accident happened. Oh, let me back that up. That's the wrong term to use. This was no accident. Accidents are things that are beyond our control. this Charleston County Sheriff's Deputy, Emily Pelletier, she had full control over the situation, and she could have driven in a reasonable speed down this road and seen this stop sign and come to a stop or entered the intersection cautiously. Instead, there was no braking. When she got to the stop sign, she went straight through the stop sign, crossed 3 lanes of highway and a median, and in the 4th lane, killed these 3 women. Okay. But that was just, that was the starting point of the abuse. Because, you know, first off, there should have been, at that point, from that person who survived it, the only one who survived this I want to say murder, but this killing, because I can't say accident. The only one who survived it was Emily Pelletier. And until she was in court, after the verdict came down, there was no time that she ever said anything about she was sorry for what she did. Never. As a matter of fact, as I'm talking about this abuse, this layer and layer and layer of abuse that this family has been through, that's just another layer that the family has had to endure. This lady went to the hospital that night, was released from the hospital that night, was placed on administrative leave with pay that night, which to me, that's vacation time. Anytime that you have time off from work with pay, that's vacation, okay? And ultimately, she lived her life every day, enjoying holidays and birthdays and getting a drink on maybe, I don't know, for the last 3 years before getting into court, where there was a verdict given of guilty, unanimous verdict given of guilty on all charges. But I want to talk about the abuse that started from the beginning. From the beginning. I think Stephanie, the mother, I think at that time she was 54 years old. As a matter of fact, April 17th, a few days ago, right, she would have celebrated her birthday. But unfortunately, Emily Pelletier killed her 3 years ago, days after celebrating her birthday, with no remorse until she got found guilty in court. That's the only time he heard anything. So after doing this, right, there was no immediate arrest at all. Nope. Even though there was a private citizen who actually went to the scene a couple of days later, like 2 days later, on May 10th. It might have been May 11th, but because it was so late on May 8th when this happened, it was 2 days later. And this private citizen, who was really not an investigator or law enforcement or forensic pathologist or scientist or nothing like that, he went out there and he reenacted, just based on common sense and logic, exactly what happened that night 2 days earlier, when Shanice was driving the car, Miranda was in the passenger seat, and Stephanie was in the back seat, and they were killed instantly when this cop slammed into their vehicle. It was clocked at 71 miles an hour when at the time of impact. And that concerned citizen who went out there that night and did that, he's on right now, Elvin Spates. Shout out to Elvin Spates for a job well done. 2 days after, while the police were doing everything they could to not share information with the public, to not, I guess, give the public any information, Elvin went out there and reenacted. There was still debris from the accident. Excuse me, I keep saying that word. I should not be using that word. from this tragedy. There was debris still on the ground where it happened. The signpost that was run into was on the ground where the car, this lady, when she hit their car, knocked the car into the woods. Into the woods. And the first person on the scene just happened to be the other deputy. I'm going to talk about him in a minute, who she had been with when she got the call to respond to, I didn't even say that. The call that she was answering, because she was answering a call that night, it was a non-emergency call. It was a stranded motorist call. Lady was stranded, or her car broke down on Highway 17, which is a dangerous highway and everything. And her partner that night, in that sector, in that district, his name was Clifford Sachs, another sheriff's deputy, more veteran than Emily Pelletier. They were together when the call came in, and I'm going to touch on this in a minute. I've already recounted what happened after Emily Pelletier got the call. Okay, that ultimately led to the death of Shanice, Miranda, and Stephanie. But Elvin went out there and reenacted it from a civilian's perspective, and using just some plain old common sense. And everything he said and everything he reported on, I'm going to say reported on, 2 days afterward, I heard every bit of that substantiated in the courtroom week before last, that Elvin got it right. And if Elvin got it right without any training or expertise in these areas, that tells me that law enforcement at every other level, from the time of the incident, knew exactly what happened. And instead of them going into court quickly, instead of them even arresting her quickly, it took 3 years for this family, 3 years of heartaches, 3 years of birthdays, 3 years of holidays, 3 years of Thanksgivings with 3 empty chairs for their 3 loved ones. It took 3 years for them to get into court to hopefully get some kind of justice out of this. And I say hopefully. After the tragedy, Emily Pelletier, the cop who killed these 3 women, she was suspended with pay. When it happened, she was placed on paid leave, okay, a vacation, as I said. And that's exactly what she did. She went on vacation. She actually went out of town and she visited relatives. You know, it's pretty amazing, you know, that when they did finally arrest her, they waited for her to come back in town. She took that, just like we've been saying for a long time, when you let these officers involved in the deaths of civilians go on paid administrative leave after killing somebody, that's vacation. And she proved it because she was somewhere outside of the local municipality, outside of the county, where they had to wait for her to come back. Well, they didn't have to wait. They could have went and got her. If that was me, they would have came and got me. They had to wait for her to come back to arrest her. That's insane. That's insane. During this time, the information sharing, right? Sharing of the details about the case from Kristen Graziano, who was the sheriff at that time, Charleston County Sheriff's Officer, sheriffs at that time. That information during that time stopped about details, any details. And they used the same excuse they always use. You hear it right now used in the Tyron Kinlock situation in Monk's Corner. Same thing. What they say? Oh, we turned over the investigation to SLED. As if that's some kind of excuse why you don't have to answer to the public when the public asks for details. There's no law in South Carolina that says, one, that it has to be turned over to SLED, which for me, that's just the police checking on the police. I don't really like that whole scenario, but there's no law that says, one, they have to do it, and 2, that once they turn it over, that they can't talk to the public. They can't release video evidence. Really, there's no law on the books that says that. Our General Assembly has not passed any kind of law saying that. They use it as an excuse. Law enforcement agencies use it as an excuse. I heard it in the Slager case. I heard it in countless other cases. We can't turn over the information because SLED is investigating. I don't give a darn whether SLED is investigating or whether SLED was complicit in it. There's no law saying you can't release that information. But Graziano, she used that excuse not to give out any information to the public. Okay. Again, as I said, the killing, it happened on May 8th, 2022. But a warrant for Emily Pelletier's arrest, it wasn't finally issued until 30 days later. So she's on paid leave with our taxpayers' money paying her, right? On paid leave. Money that Stephanie and Shanice and Miranda on their jobs and in their homes, they paid taxes, right? The tax money that they paid for their killer to go on paid leave, which turned out, looks like a vacation to me because she went and visited somebody in her family and they had to be brought back, okay? But they finally, 30 days later, on June 7th, Tuesday, June 7th, that's when they issued a warrant for her arrest, okay? But she wasn't arrested actually until 3 days later, June 10th, okay? 33 days after it happened, because they had to wait for her to come back because she was out of town visiting relatives on vacation, as I said, on vacation. The abuse, again, to this family. While this family is grieving during the time where they had to bury their 3 loved ones, the murderer, the killer, was vacationing. And that lady knew exactly what she had done. When that lady went into court a week and a half ago, she knew exactly what she had done. And the court and everybody in that whole chain of command, from the solicitor's office to the defense attorneys, all knew that she was guilty of this. And she's known from 11:01 that night that she was guilty. But these delays, right? These delays. Okay, it happened on the 8th. Not arrested until June, the 8th of May. Not arrested until June 10th, after they brought her back from vacation. Slaps, slaps, slaps. Oh, yeah, and one of the earlier statements that Kristen Graziano, the sheriff, made early on, it was quoted by ABC News 4. That link is in the status for this live. But the ABC News 4 wrote that Graziano said Tuesday that Pelletier ran a stop sign. This is right after that now, right after the incident happened. The incident happened on Sunday. That Tuesday, Kristen Graziano literally is reported through the media that she said that Pelletier ran a stop sign and did not have her police lights on during the collision. Even saying that, I'm so happy that she said it. But that's the amount of abuse and disrespect that has been shown to this family, because that was 2 days after it happened and they never got to court. First off, there was no arrest until 31 days after she said that. And they never got to court until 3 years later. Today is April the 30th, the last day of April. Tomorrow's May 1st. 3 years ago, today, Stephanie, Shanice, and Miranda were all alive and well. Had just celebrated Stephanie's birthday and were planning on the graduation, Miranda's graduation, the day before Mother's Day, and what they were going to do for Mother's Day. 3 years ago, that's what was going on with them. And here we see, the the sheriff, admitting that when that her officer, her deputy, ran the stop sign and caused the collision and did not have any lights on. That's going to be a key point later on. Now, I don't know whether I'm going to be on this live 1 hour, 2 hours. I don't know. I got a lot to talk about. I got a whole lot to talk about. And there's more. There's more. When it comes to the sheriff, right? Although Sheriff Graziano was recorded several times stating that this was Pelletier's, it was her deputy's fault. Did you know that Charleston County Sheriff's Office didn't send any flowers to the family or help with the funeral expenses at all? Nothing. Former Sheriff Kristen Graziano was in court all week last week, but she sure didn't sit with the family. That's not to say that she's not remorseful about it. I believe she is. I think that, overall, I think she's a good-hearted person. But, sometimes we have, even good-hearted people have misplaced movements, Sad. They didn't even send any flowers, man. Knew her deputy was in the wrong. Didn't offer to pay for the funeral expenses. These people had to bury three of their loved ones at the same time, with the hope that justice was going to come somewhere along the way. So then came the arrest, right? Okay, May 8th, the tragedy happened, the collision. 30 days later, on June the 7th, a warrant was issued for Emily Pelletier's arrest, even though the sheriff was steadily saying, she said it. The news media reported. She ran through the stop sign and collided with the vehicle, and she had no police running lights on. No sirens, no lights, okay? But 30 days after the deaths, a warrant was issued for her arrest. They had to wait for her to come back from wherever she was vacationing at in order to arrest her. And on June 10th, that was June 7th when the warrant was issued. June 10th, she was actually brought back and arrested. And that's the strangest thing that I've ever seen. This arrest is the strangest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I've been to jail quite a few times. I've been arrested quite a few times, and never, ever did I get arrested the way that she got arrested, okay? When she was finally arrested and booked in the Al Cannon Detention Center, listen here, she walked into the detention center at 1:45 p.m. 1:45 p.m. Right now, it's 1:17 in the afternoon right now. On June the 10th, which was a Friday, she was brought to the detention center and brought in through a side entrance at 1:45 in the afternoon, and where she was booked without the usual jail procedures at all. She never saw a jail cell when she was there. We have a picture. I didn't bring any pictures with me today or whatever. We have a picture of her actually parlaying inside of where the detectives and everything are at. No cuffs, nothing like that. Yeah. Special treatment, right? Special treatment. Yeah. But listen, she walked in at 1:45 in the afternoon. She was booked. She went to bond court. She was given a bond. She made that bond, and she was released on bond at 3:32. Remember, she walked in at 1:45 and was released at 3:32 after making bond, less than 2 hours after she was arrested. Less than 2 hours, she was back out on the street. And again, she never saw the inside of a cell before court last week, the week before last. That was it. Never saw the inside of a cell. That's another layer of the abuse that this family has had to go through. This special treatment of this one who killed not one, not two, but 3 members of their family. Because of her negligence, her recklessness, and her total disregard for others' lives. Driving down that road, she did over 80 miles an hour on a pitch black road. She could have run over somebody along that way. And you know, the reality is, when she got to that stop sign and blew through it and hit hit the car that Shanice was driving and killing them, if that car wouldn't have been there, Emily Pelletier probably would have killed herself. She probably would have ran into a tree or something on the other side of the road and killed herself. And never once, until she went to court and caught that conviction, did she stand up and say, I'm sorry. Other than that, she's been trying to wiggle and have a great time over the last 3 years. I'm going to get to that in a minute. The abuse continued, though, after the arrest in the bond court. When she was finally arrested, okay, she went to bond court that right there, without going to a jail cell like most of us will have to wait for bond court. She went to bond court right there. In bond court, and I don't know, I guess this would have been the family's lawyers or whatever, but the family didn't speak. Emily Pelletier's family actually spoke in bond court to the judge. But the Dantzler and Dantzler Williams family, they didn't speak in bond court. I don't know whether that was an issue with their attorneys or what, but it's kind of unusual that the victims didn't say anything. But the bottom line was this judge, right, in bond court. Remember, this lady killed three women. And for everything that I've said today, and I supported it with links for the media, right, for the media, saying that they knew that she killed these 3 women. But what did this judge do when it came to setting bond? This judge set each bond for the women, for the deceased women, at $25,000 each. $25,000 for the death of Stephanie, $25,000 for the death of Shanice, and $25,000 for bond for the death of Miranda. A total of $75,000 bond for the death of 3 women by a reckless homicide caused by this Charleston County Sheriff's Department. $75,000. You know, you bounce, right? 10% of that, $7,500. Judge set bond. They made bond. And in less than 2 hours, after being arrested, after coming to the station and being arrested, Emily Pelletier was back out having her good time. Probably went to Golden Corral or something that night. I don't know. While this family's left to grieve their loved ones. $25,000. I'm going to say something that's cold. Per body. Per body. But listen what the judge said, even though she set that low bond, okay? That bond should have been $250,000 each. And she should have gone directly to jail. Do not pass go, go directly to jail. But let me just tell you, okay, what the judge said, though. Even though the judge set this low bond, all right? Here's what the judge says, and I quote, and there's a link to that in the status, okay? I quote, the judge said Pelletier cannot contact the Dantzler family or travel outside the state of South Carolina. This is the judge's conditions, okay? And then she added each charge comes with a prison sentence of up to 10 years. She gave the whole thing, okay? You can get up to 10 years on this charge. You can't have any contact with this family, and you cannot travel outside of the state of South Carolina. The judge said, and I quote, it's a quote now, I understand you have ties to the community and you have family with no prior history. But, this is what the judge said. They gave them this low bond. I do think the level of recklessness in this situation speaks for itself as to dangers in the communities, said the judge. I do think the level of recklessness in this situation speaks for itself. The judge who just gave her $25,000 bond on each one of their bodies, $75,000 total, $7,500 to walk, said the level of recklessness in this case deserves that you get slammed. But she ain't slammer. She ain't slammer. She said no contact with the family. Say can't hear me. Okay. Anybody else can't hear me? Can you hear me now? Mm-hmm. Can you hear me now? Okay. Well, she said they couldn't have any contact with the family, and she was not allowed to travel outside of, there was a travel restriction outside of the state of South Carolina. But there was also a caveat, okay? She could not travel outside of the state of South Carolina, but it was an unless she got permission from the family through the victim's advocate liaison. And over this last 3 years, folks, this family got repeated requests from this woman who killed their 3 loved ones to travel here and to travel there. It's my understanding that, and I could be wrong on it, I'm not exactly sure, that they got a request talking about she wanted to go to Disney World. Another request, she said she wanted to go to the Olympics. Who does that? What kind of abuse, what kind of lack of respect for the family and their loss is that? Gwen, no, the toxicology test that I'm aware of, it revealed no alcohol or drugs in Emily Pelletier's system, okay? Now, remember, SLED investigates the police. The police investigate the police. I'm going to drop that like that. You can interpret it any kind of way that you want, but she had to take a urinalysis at the hospital when she was transported there that night. And the toxicology report says that she had no alcohol and drugs in her system, which to me, that makes it even worse because she was cognizant. She was aware that she was driving over 80 miles an hour down this dark road. She can't say that she was too drunk to see the stop sign that she blew through. She was aware of all of this, but she still did it. That makes it even worse to me, okay? That's crazy. And she had no qualms whatsoever about having the victim's advocate call this family up and say, hey, is it okay if Emily takes a trip? She'd like to go to the Olympics. And this God-fearing family, that, you know, that's what we do. You know, they finally got just fed up and they just told them, don't tell her, don't have them people call us no more. We're not going to agree to any travel. And I can't prove it, but I'd been told that there was a chance that she might have just took a trip anyway and got caught. No remorse whatsoever. Alrighty. Over those same 3 years, from May 8th, 2022 until going to court, there's literally no communication from the solicitor's office, who is actually the solicitor. The state is actually the attorney for the victims. But there's no communication about trial dates, you know, or anything like that, except after the family had these press conferences that it periodically had, calling out the solicitor's office. All of a sudden, now there was one right where I'm at right now, where in the midst of the press conference, one of the reporters that was here, he said, man, she just called me. She just sent me a text message. But she wouldn't contact that family. She said that the solicitor said, with all fairness, let me just be honest, the solicitor said that this was the request made through the lawyers, that any conversations or communication from the solicitor to the family be made through the lawyers. So I don't know if the solicitor was playing games or if the lawyer was playing games, but the family never got any information whatsoever. The family who was, they're the ones who are supposed to get the information. Even if it was an attorney's fault, one of their attorney's fault, who bottled up the information instead of giving it to them. And if that happened, I would have to wonder why. Why, if that happened, why would an attorney bottle that information up and keep that information to themselves? About communication from the solicitor's office. And then this constant thing about, about we backlogged. We can't get into court. We backlogged with cases and all of this. But we saw another woman who killed a bride and injured others in a golf cart over on Folly Beach. That happened after the deaths of Stephanie, Shanice, and Miranda. That she wound up getting into court and got 25 years, by the way. 25 years, okay? 25 years. So let me move up, okay? Because, even during that 3 years, and I've been with this family during that 3 years. Taisha Aiken, who's on here, she's been with this family for this 3 years. And they've held out hope that one day, whenever that happened, that they got in court, that justice was going to be served. That justice was going to be served. And we as a people, we have a strange belief system where we believe that justice is always going to be served. I wish I could say it happened in this time. But let me go to the courtroom. Let me go to the halls of justice as I continue to map out this pattern of abuse and disrespect for this family, because that's all it's been since May 8th, the murder, the deaths of their 3 loved ones, 54-year-old Stephanie, 28-year-old Shanice, and 22-year-old Miranda, on Mother's Day, the day after Miranda had graduated from college. And the abuse that happened over that 3-year period before getting into court, the halls of justice, where justice is supposed to take place at. The attorneys representing Scarlett Wilson's office, the Ninth Circuit Solicitor's Office. Scarlett didn't take this case herself. Scarlett did not take this case herself. She had 2 of her people from her office actually litigate this case. The first one, the lead litigator, I believe it would be, or they might be co-counsels, I don't know the legal terminology, was a veteran, her name, a veteran attorney, Jennifer Sheely. And her co-counsel was a younger fellow, his name is Elliot Barrow. His father's a well-recognized attorney for many, many years here, Elliot Barrow. And to be honest with you, perfectly honest, they laid the case out that gave the jury enough information for the jury to go out and deliberate for about an hour, maybe a little bit more, and come back with a unanimous verdict of guilty on all charges, on the charge of reckless homicide. Okay, they did what could be considered their job. Okay, and I'm gonna touch on that in a minute too. So that was for the prosecution, representing the state, representing, I guess, what you would consider the victims. That would be Jennifer Sheely and Elliot Barrows Jr. Representing Emily Pelletier, because she had to have her lawyers there too, were these 2 lawyers, Frank Cornley and Nathan Williams. I'm just going to say it. I have no respect for them whatsoever. What they tried to do in court, painting the victims as the cause of their own accident, their own deaths. Let me put it that way, because that word accident is an error. Yeah. Sam Kwan. Yeah, it's public. My page, everything on my page is public. All you got to do is share it. That's all. Share it out there. But here we get to court, right? Emily Pelletier's two attorneys, Frank Cornley and Nathan Williams, all of whom are part of a circle that, that Scarlett Wilson is in also, along with the judge there, Judge Dale Van Slambrook, that's his name, Dale Van Slambrook, like slam dunk, Slambrook. Okay. And again, all of them operate in these circles with Scarlett Wilson. As a matter of fact, Scarlett congratulated Slambrook last year when he was appointed judge. She had a Facebook page and everything. We screenshot it. that she put out there. And Cornley and the other guy, Williams, William, his name is Nathan Williams, but don't confuse it, okay? It's the white dude, all right? Let me just say that, okay? And it was insane that these attorneys would get into court and without any kind of moral compass or anything. I guess when you get paid, I don't know what she paid them, but she must have paid them a whole lot to sell their souls to the devil in court the way that they did. Yeah, Taisha, they all connected, every last one of them. Even the ones on the state side are connected, and because they all work. The two states attorneys, they work in Scarlett Wilson's office. They work up under Scarlett, and Scarlett is connected with all of them. Okay. I'm gonna let you all figure out that, okay? But in court, right? In court, there was the evidence was overwhelming that Emily Pelletier was at fault in this situation, that it was reckless homicide. The evidence showed, because in these vehicles, even in our own personal vehicles, there are things that are being recorded that we don't even know about. Like if you have your seatbelt on and stuff like that, that's being recorded in these vehicles. And she was driving, Shanice was driving a 2012 Toyota. And they were able to pull whatever I'm going to call it, I don't know the official name, the black box recording. They were able to pull that and know that she had on a seatbelt. To know that Miranda in the passenger's side had on a seatbelt. That other things were going on in the vehicle. Just like with Emily Pelletier's cruiser that she was driving on, there's a much more intricate knowledge stored in the black box in there. Like speeds, like how fast you're going, like whether your lights are flashing or whether your siren is on, whether they've come on. All of the data that's recorded when they're talking on the microphone. I'm code 1 to a sign. That means non-emergency call. As opposed to code 3, where I'm doing excessive speeds with my lights and my sirens on, okay? All of this is recorded. And in court, it was crystal clear that this lady had a total disregard for her position as a law enforcement officer, and was literally flying down this back road over 80 miles an hour, got to this stop stand, the intersection of Highway 17 and New Road, and barely slowing, went through this stop sign and slammed directly into the vehicle that Shanice was driving, with Miranda on the passenger side and Stephanie in the back seat, killing all three of them instantly. She crossed, as I said earlier, from the stop sign over 2 lanes, northbound lanes, a full median, and 1 lane on the southbound side before hitting the car in 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. And these jackleg lawyers, I thank you, Lord, for controlling my tongue, because I really do want to cuss when I talk about these people. They tried to say that they found alcohol in Shanice's system, the driver's system, and that she somehow contributed to her death. Even though it was also brought out in court through expert testimony that the way that they drew the blood from the mangled body, the 3 of them died from what's called full body trauma. That means that their bodies were so wrecked. That's really what killed them, their bodies. The drivers, I'm going to say this and I'm going to be done with it. Shanice, who was the driver and the one who was directly impacted the most, said all of her bodily organs on the left side of her, you're driving your car, and this is your driver's window and everything right here. She was hit from this side, and everything on the left side of her body was forced over into the right side of her body, along with breaking bones and all of this. And so in order to draw a blood sample, they had no peripheral area where they would normally draw a blood sample from in order to get a good sample of processed blood, okay, after alcohol is processed through the system. So they drew the blood where they do in these situations, from the body cavity, where all of these different organs that had been lacerated, the liver was lacerated, the spleen was lacerated, the lungs were lacerated, the heart was lacerated. So all this big pool of blood from different places that stores alcohol before it's processed into the bloodstream, where they would normally draw blood for a blood alcohol content test, a BAC test, they have to take it from that pooled area where all of this blood was all together. And if there was any alcohol in the system that had not been processed, that's where it would all be residing at, giving a false reading on the blood alcohol content. That's the bottom line. Expert testimony said it was a reading that we would never stand in the medical community with, okay? But these lawyers, they used that trying to say that it was her fault. She was at fault in her death. They tried to say that she was driving with her lights out, driving down Highway 17. If you know Highway 17 the way I know Highway 17, in that particular area, nobody drives with their lights out there without knowing that their lights are out. No, it's dark. It's pitch black out there. Nobody. But they tried to paint the picture that she was driving with her lights out, and for some strange reason or other, this was her fault. Even though South Carolina Highway Patrol investigator, his name is Jesse James, Sergeant Jesse James, got on that stand, and he said repeatedly, that in no way did Shanice, as the driver of the car that was impacted by Emily Pelletier's cruiser, there was no way that Shanice and that car contributed in any kind of way to this collision. None. This was all Emily Pelletier's fault. Totally. 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 He said it several times so that the jury clearly understood that the results of their investigation found that, he said this, that there was no way for Shanice, no time for Shanice to be able to react before impact. Remember, this lady had no lights on, no sirens on, and doing 73 miles an hour when she entered the intersection, and 71 when she slammed into the car. T-boning them. That's right, Sam Gordon. That's right. That's right. T-boning them at 71 miles an hour, killing them instantly, knocking their car into the woods at that time. Yep. Let me speed this up, okay? Because I only got this room for a little while longer, okay? Now, something that didn't come out in court, even though the deputy that was with her, Clifford Sachs, they were working that thing together. And even in court, when he was on the stand, not once did those attorneys, Attorney Shealy or Attorney Barrows, ask him about the part that he played. Some of you all might remember that when this happened, the first word that came out across the board was that they were racing to the scene of this non-emergency accident to see who could get there first. And that's how they wound up going in two different routes to get there to this place. And on the stand, that was never brought out when he was under examination. Never. But the phrase that was used in court that should have opened up the door for that, they said repeatedly that he beat her to the scene, meaning he got there to the stranded motorist first, he beat her to the scene of the non-emergency call. It was used several times in court. And again, most of us remember when this first started, the word on the street was that they were racing. That they were racing. And that's why she was flying down that road like that. You know. And let me just ask this, okay? If Emily Pelletier's speed exceeded 80 miles an hour at times going to the scene of this non-emergency call, and Clifford Sachs beat her to the call, what was Sachs's speed? What was he doing that he beat her to the scene, as they said? Beat her to the scene. How fast was he going? Okay. Knowing that Pelletier was responding to this non-emergency call, why was Sachs traveling at such a high rate of speed if they weren't racing? And I say a high rate of speed, okay, that's just me just speculating, okay, that he got there first. So if she's doing 80 some odd miles an hour trying to get to the scene, he got there first, he must have been flying down the road too, whatever road he was on. And guess what? Guess what? That wasn't brought out in court. The records from his black box, it clearly shows that at some points during that time, from the time they got the call to the time he arrived at the vehicle where the stranded motorist was at, there were times in there that he did in excess of 90 miles an hour down that road. Sounds like racing to me, with Emily Pelletier trying to see who could get to that call first, recklessly disregarding life, limb, and safety along the way. This is the logical part about it. And not only the logical part about it, but the record actually shows it. I've seen the record. I've seen the record of what his speed was. He should have been arrested for contributing to this problem. But what happened though? What happened? Here he was at the scene, right? And so under testimony, this is what he said. He said while he was interviewing the non-emergency call victim, right? He was standing on it's night, it's Highway 17. The non-emergency motorist vehicle is stopped on the road. It's actually in a lane of the road, so it's on the lane that's closest to the ditch. So caution would dictate him as the officer that he would not talk to her on the driver's side. He'd go around to the passenger side. Passenger side, because she's traveling north on Highway 17, would be facing New Road. Okay, would be facing New Road. So he walks around to the passenger side to talk to the lady about what was going on with her and her vehicle and how could he be of service. And he testified that while he was interviewing this lady, that he glanced up, I would be to his right, glanced up, I guess, to his right at that perfect exact moment, and he saw Pelletier, her lights crossing Highway 17. Then he saw a flash of light and heard a loud noise. He say he saw her police running lights, the blue flashing lights, cross Highway 17 and slam into what he thought. He saw a flash. Actually, he saw a flash of light and heard a loud noise. He says he saw lights, and let me just be clear about that. That the black box in her cruiser and the expert testimony of the highway patrol officers that investigated it, he said he saw lights that were not on at that time in order to support his partner who killed these three women. And he said this with this family sitting in court, listening to this BS. And the attorney said nothing. The attorneys never did take him to task on it. Never did. At all. How could he see emergency lights when there wasn't none on. Remember, he never did say he heard a siren either. He said he saw the lights. What kind of timing was that he was having this conversation with her? Remember, it was 1 second, bam, that she went from the stop sign to the impact. 1 second. What kind of perfect timing was that? He's holding this conversation with her, and he's just talking to her, and he just looks up and says, oh, that looks like Emily's car. It just went through there, the lights. What kind of perfect timing was that? Or was it that he was talking to her, and then all of a sudden he heard the boom of the impact, and he looked up, and ultimately he wound up deciding that I better cover for my partner by saying I saw the lights cross the road, because he couldn't have seen lights that wasn't there. Impossible. Impossible. How could he see the emergency lights when the emergency lights wasn't even on? The siren wasn't even on. And how did he just look up at that perfect time and see that? The data recorded in her cruiser showed two things. I said it. She crossed Highway 17 in 1 second, and neither her lights nor her sirens were on. There was no recording. And if there's no recording, that means they weren't on. The evidence proved it. So what happened in court? What happened in court? Okay. What happened in court? Well, again, I said it. After the jury went out and deliberated for a little bit over an hour, they came back in the court. It was a real fast back to the court. And they came back with a unanimous decision of guilty. Guilty of reckless homicide in the death of Shanice Dantzler Williams. Guilty in the reckless homicide death of Miranda Dantzler Williams. And guilty in the reckless homicide death of their mother, Stephanie Dantzler. All three. Now, with the sentencing option, now that's where the joy came in for all of us that were sitting in the court who were waiting on justice. After 3 years, this family was waiting on justice. All of a sudden, the jury gave them justice based on not even the complete evidence. Okay, remember, the stuff about Sachs wasn't even entered into, what I just told you about Sachs wasn't even entered into the case at all. But that joy was quickly dashed. That joy was quickly taken away, as now it turned over into the judge's hands after he dismissed the jury, who came back with a unanimous verdict of guilty. He dismissed them. Now everything was in his hands to decide the sentencing process. Before the sentencing and all of that happened, they allowed the families to speak, the families of Stephanie, Shanice, and Miranda, to say some words. And then they also allowed Emily Pelletier's family to say some words. And myself, I would have objected to that. I would have asked my attorneys. I don't want to hear it. If wouldn't nobody speak up in this 3 years, you had three years, you had 365 times 3 almost to speak up or say something, and you ain't said nothing. I don't want to hear it now. I don't want to hear it in court right now. There's nothing you can say right now. Then her mother, you know, will pray for her because she like fell out. They had to call the EMS. They actually literally held up the sentencing and all of that for her to get back in the court, or the testimony or the speaking from the family members, so for her to get back in court and all of this here. But ultimately, now it's the judge. It's on the judge. I had to take a deep breath, okay? With a sentencing option of up to 10 years for each life that she recklessly took, up to 10 years for each life that she recklessly took, and the option to have those 3 sentences run consecutively. Like, okay, you do one 10-year sentence, now you start the next one, you finish that one, now you start the next one. So with an option of sentencing her to up to 30 years, okay, and with the option of imposing a fine of up to $5,000 for each life that was taken, the judge, Judge Dale Van Slambrook, the one who Scarlett Wilson applauded, right, a year ago, June or July, I think it is, June or July. Judge Dale Van Slambrook, who had sole discretion in the sentencing, he sentenced the undeniably guilty Emily Pelletier to 5 years in prison for each life that she took, instead of 10 years in prison for each life. That's the first thing. He said 5 years for each life, okay? Then what happened? Then Van Slambrook, what he did with those 5 years that he sentenced her to for each life, 5 years per life, he suspended those 3 5-year sentences in prison and reduced them down to 3 years in prison per charge. 9 years. So we went from 10 years per charge, per death, per life taken, 10 years, down to 5 years for each life taken. And now he reduces that 5 down to 3 years for each life taken. And remember, I talked about it running consecutively, okay? If it would have gave the max, it would have been 30 years, 10 plus 10 plus 10. But he did not. He said, no, it's 5. Okay, so consecutively, it would have been 5 plus 5 plus 5, which is 15 years. But then he said, no, okay, no, we're going to go a little bit lower, 3 years. And consecutively, it would have been 3 plus 3 plus 3 years, or 9 years serving in prison. And if that wasn't enough, instead of making the 5 years in prison that he had just reduced to 3 years in prison, instead of making them run 3 years consecutively, or 9 years, as I said, a total of 9 years in prison, the judge decided that a fair and a just sentence was that all 3 of these sentences should run concurrently, not consecutively, ultimately sentencing Emily Pelletier to 3 years total in prison. 3 years, 1 year per body. Oh, and no fine whatsoever. Fine wasn't even mentioned in court. Fine wasn't even. And then, of the 3 years, she's only going to serve 85% of that, or 2 years and 5 months in prison for killing 3 women. Folks, something just ain't right. 3 years, ultimately serving 2 years and 5 months. She's going to serve less time for killing 3 women with irrefutable evidence. Irrefutable, unquestionable. And not all of the evidence was even presented in court. And she's going to spend less time in jail, in prison, than she spent out on bond for the last 3 years. Black lives don't matter. Y'all, I put the post on my page. Y'all remember Caitlin the dog, right? Caitlin the dog. That was maybe 10 years ago or something like that, okay? In the case of Caitlin the dog, she had an owner who taped her snout. She was a dog, and she taped her snout shut with duct tape, and her tongue was hanging out, and really almost killed the dog. Well, they found the dog, and then they found the owner who did that, and they arrested him, right? They arrested him. And his name is William Dobson, okay? And when he went to court, Judge Markley Dennis, right? Judge Dennis sentenced this man to 5 years in prison for animal abuse. 5 years, and the dog didn't die. Thank God the dog didn't die. But he got sentenced to 5 years in prison for animal abuse. And Judge Dennis, actually, he said that if he could have given him more time, he would have given him more time for abusing a dog. 5 years. And if he would have killed Caitlin the dog, he'd have got a 20-year sentence, straight up. And here, 3 women were killed by this Emily Pelletier, this Charleston County Sheriff's Office deputy, was killed. And she got 3 years. 3 years total. Total. Now I'm gonna run through this next part right here, because I want to make a disclaimer. This is my personal opinion about this, okay? I ain't expecting nobody to believe anything that I got to say right now, but I'm not a fan of Scarlett Wilson, and Scarlett knows that. And when I stop and I think about what happened in court, I have to look at it from the way I look at things, okay? Because something ain't right. The math ain't mathing at all. And it looks like, once again, black lives don't matter in the Ninth Circuit, where Scarlett Wilson is the lead solicitor. In my personal opinion, it really looks like the fix was on, okay? Why? Why was the fix on? Because Scarlett Wilson literally, once she saw the body of evidence that they were going to present in court, that's why she didn't litigate it herself. She put her people over there to litigate it, okay? Scarlett knew that there was too much evidence against the cop to not bring an indictment against her, against Pelletier. And that at court, that Pelletier was going to be convicted. Scarlett knew that, which is exactly what happened. So she needed a backup plan. Again, this is all opinion. This is speculation. I don't know for sure. I have no evidence of this. And usually when people are good at what they do as far as not being straight up, they're good at what they do as far as not being straight up, you know. So she needed a backup plan, since she knew that there was going to be this conviction of this cop, something that doesn't happen with her. And the backup plan was the judge, okay? She knew that since she could not get this cop off scot-free, as she has in the past in officer-involved deaths, okay, a plan was needed to make sure that the cop got the most lenient sentence possible. Now, Scarlett Wilson, she has a documented history of failing to get justice for the victims and the survivors in officer-involved deaths, okay? Here's her history. She was elected in 2008, and every time a cop killed a black man on her watch, or a black person on her watch, no one went to jail, okay? Here's her Charleston County history. This is just her Charleston County history. She's over Berkeley County, too. I didn't do the research there. There's probably more there, okay? Here's her history as far as law enforcement officers who have killed black people, either by shooting them or vehicular homicide, okay? 2013, remember she started her term in 2008. 2013, Daryl Drayton out on James Island. He was killed by two cops there. Failed to indict those two cops. She did not even indict those two cops. 2014, Denzel Jabba Cornell, dead in Charleston down on the bay. Failed to indict the city of Charleston cop that killed him. 2015, Walter Scott in North Charleston. Failed to convict the North Charleston cop, even with a video of the murder. She did not convict him. Michael Slager would not be in prison right now had it not been a civil rights violation, and federal court picked it up and they convicted him in federal court. But Scarlett Wilson did not convict him, okay? 2020, Jason Cooper down on the bay too, dead by a Charleston cop. Failed to indict that Charleston cop. 2021, Jamal Sutherland, dead in North Charleston at the Alcana Detention Center. She failed to indict the two Charleston County Sheriff's deputies who killed him. 2022 in North Charleston, Junie Williams, dead by North Charleston Police Department. She failed to indict the two North Charleston cops who killed Junie. 2022, Rodnisha Wright, dead in North Charleston, vehicular homicide, reckless homicide. Cop doing 80-something through a darn stoplight and T-boned her car. And she failed to indict that cop. All black and all lives taken by law enforcement. And Scarlett Wilson's job was to represent the victims, the ones who died. But there was never any justice in any one of those cases. And now it's three black women, Stephanie Dantzler and her two daughters, Shanice and Miranda Dantzler Williams, who were killed by an on-duty Charleston County Sheriff's deputy 3 years ago on Mother's Day while driving home, minding their business. And all they got ultimately was, well, they got a conviction in court. First time on her watch, a conviction in court. But the sentence did not fit the crime. 3 years. Give a dog abuser 5 years. But this cop can kill 3 black women and get 3 years. Insane. 3 years total. 3 years total. Some more abuse. They had erected a sign right at New Road there and Highway 17, memorializing Stephanie, Shanice, and Miranda. Suddenly one day, though, the sign was removed, and the people who removed it just brought it to the mother's home, and they just put it in the yard there for her, you know. And I don't think that we can even go to State Senators Matt Lieber or Gary Brewer or James Teeple, Representatives Brewer or Teeple, and ask them for no help, because they ain't down with helping the black folk out, straight up. They're part of the problem. Get registered and get ready to vote them out, okay? So that's the background. That's the background. As I'm over my time, 2:04. That's the background. That's the disturbing background. But that's the fact-based background. And I'm so happy that so many stayed on here today. Please share this out so other people will see this. Please share it out. And this is the reason why I'm really happy that things happened where the family couldn't be with me, that I could just flow and tell the truth. Locally, I want to just right now take a moment to send my condolences out to the family of Breonna Kaysen. Stop it, people. Stop it. I'm just going to say it. I saw the video. And I hope they put that dude under the jail. Folks, if you got that iron, stop toting it around with you. It's too big of a temptation to use it in these crazy situations. Stop it. Okay. But not only that's so sad. It's so sad. That's so sad. Especially since 2017, she lost her brother to gun violence too. And in between 2017 and now, her mom died, Crystal. Sad. And her family members, they got gun violence. They're survivors of gun violence also. Deetra Fleming lost her daughter Odessa a year after Breonna's brother was killed, right before Christmas. I know too much. To the family of Tyron Kinlock, my apologies. First off, my condolences for your loss, okay? My condolences. It's another officer-involved shooting. Berkeley County. Remember, this is Scarlett Wilson's territory, all right? I'm just going to tell you all that right now. Scarlett Wilson's territory. But my apologies that I couldn't be at the press conference yesterday. And I just can't be everywhere. I can't be everywhere. But I am waiting, especially to see if the video evidence will come out sometime soon. You had people with you who were standing with you, and that's admirable too, you know. And my time has been over the last 3 years standing with the Dantzler and Dantzler Williams family, and the people who you were with, they haven't been standing there with them. So I have to share the community responsibility sometime, and that was one of those situations there. Even though my heart is with you and my prayers are with you all. Okay, all righty. Now I shared a post today as I close that I posted some time ago, and I captioned it. They're killing us. They killed Stephanie, Shanice, and Miranda. They've killed our people constantly over time. I captioned this thing. Let me read it. I said, they're killing us with guns. They're killing us with drugs. They're killing us with gangs. They're killing us with poverty. They're killing us with mass incarceration. They're killing us with negative imagery. They're killing us with ghetto price gouging and high interest rates. They're killing us with gentrification. They're killing us by taking our land. They're killing us by undereducating our children. They're killing us by destroying the black family. They're killing us by denying our history. They're killing us by limiting access to quality health care. They're killing us by making healthy food inaccessible. They're killing us by restricting our voting rights. And they're killing us by promoting black leaders who sell out black people in support of white supremacy. And in the end, it all boils down to this. They're killing us, and we won't do a darn thing to stop them, and they know it. When it came to public outcry and the deaths of these three women, we had no support. We called for people to come out, no support. But we have these dances or whatever going on. We got people everywhere. Listen, they're going to keep treating us like this as long as we are silent and we won't come together and we won't stop hurting each other. They are going to continue to treat us this way. So I hope that this has brought some enlightenment about what this last 3 years has been for this family and the disrespect and abuse that they've been put through. And I didn't even talk about the fact that even when it comes to monetary compensation, financial compensation, there's a law that says that they're not even going to be treated justly and fairly in getting financial compensation for a death that was the result of a Charleston County Sheriff's deputy's negligence and recklessness. I'll talk to you again about that at a later date. Listen, thank you all for spending this time with me. I really appreciate it. Y'all have a great day, and please keep this family lifted in prayer. Keep all of these families lifted in prayer. The family of Breonna Kaysen and Tyron Kinlock. Keep them in prayer, please. And keep our community in prayer. And keep me in prayer. I need it too, okay? Y'all take care. I love you all, and we'll talk again soon. Peace.